What is happening, guys and gals? Joe Badger here, your money mentor, where we have deep pockets and short arms, and where I help you with my decades-long experience with money investing and business. And when it comes to money, there are a lot of big mistakes that you want to avoid, because money mistakes will chew away and eat away at your finances and your savings and all that you've worked so hard for. What happens with money mistakes is you don't just make like one or two or three of them. Usually what happens is, without the correct knowledge, they become habits. And then over time, over a lifetime, over decades, over years, they really start to eat away at and erode your finances. They just destroy them. So by avoiding money mistakes, especially the big ones, you're going to preserve your capital, preserve whatever it is you worked on for so many years, and avoid just slowly losing them over time. So let's get started. Let's get into these big money mistakes. A really big mistake that you want to avoid, definitely, is to not pay off your credit card balances in full every month. You really want to avoid those fees and late charges and the interest that comes along with not paying off the credit card in full. In fact, the credit card companies are banking on you not paying off your credit card, literally banking on it. I've been debt-free for over 20 years and credit card debt-free for over 25 years. And here's an interesting fact. Did you know that people who pay off their entire balances every month pay exactly 0% interest? Think about it. Now, I believe that most people, 99% of them, have self-control and are very responsible when it comes to credit cards. To believe the opposite would be to assume that everybody has no self-control. So I think one of the biggest mistakes you can make is not to pay off your credit card at the end of every single month. And one of the best ways to do that is if your credit card company or whatever card you have has an automatic billing system where they'll withdraw the balance of the credit card out of your savings or out of your bank account every month automatically, then that's a great way to do it and not miss any dates. Just like you automatically put in your income or your check or your money into your savings account every month automatically, do the same thing with the credit card payments. That way you won't miss a date and those fees and that interest do not accumulate over time. So another really big money mistake that people make that I see a lot is they don't have enough cash reserves or some sort of an emergency fund or emergency cash in case something goes wrong. Now, I've heard a lot of different ways of calculating your emergency fund or your cash reserves. It could be $1,000, it could be $5,000, it could be a percentage of your yearly income, or it could be a whole year's worth of expenses. But either way, have something. Stash it away, whether it's actual cash or it's a savings account that's dedicated to emergencies and cash reserves, so that when something goes wrong, you notice what I said, it's not if something goes wrong. And I would start at least a couple $1,000s and have something, because things are going to go wrong and you're going to wish you had some extra money. And basically what that cash reserve does is it really just gives you a peace of mind. And here's the surprising thing about an emergency fund or cash reserves is that once you have it, you'll find out how much more careful you are, how few emergencies actually come along now that you're prepared. It's kind of like karma. It's kind of like the law of the universe. I mean, when you have no cash reserves and no emergency fund, you know what's going to hit the fan, right? So make sure that you definitely stock away some kind of money and base it upon how much you make, how much you think you need, maybe a percentage of your overall salary. But keep in mind, just have something stashed away for when the bad times come. Have you ever thought about canceling the subscriptions that you have that you no longer need? This can be a really big one. These days, a lot of business models are subscription based, and their customers are paying them monthly amounts of money. And it could be as little as a couple of bucks, or it could be $50 or $100 a month. Whatever that subscription price is, eventually over time that adds up to a lot of money. And if you were accumulating subscriptions to different services, professionally, personally, whatever it is, and you kind of forget about them and you don't review them on your credit cards or your bank accounts, wherever they're being deducted from, you're going to be paying these even if you no longer need them. So it's worth really examining your bills, deciding which subscriptions that you no longer need, and just get rid of them. Here's an awful mistake that I hope you don't make, but if you have, now you'll know from here on. But this involves life insurance. And there are a couple of people in this world that don't need life insurance at all. And what I'm talking about are infants and children. You see, life insurance is specifically designed for parents who have children who depend upon them. And if anything should ever happen to those parents, God forbid, then those young little children would have something to fall back on until they eventually grow up, become adults, and can take care of themselves. But if you have little tiny children who are 5 years old, or infants, or small minors, you don't need to put insurance on them in case, God forbid, something happens to them. It's kind of backwards. It almost seems like a great idea. In fact, I remember there used to be these commercials on TV a few years back, and they were predatorial commercials because they were going after the feelings of grandparents. And they were saying, grandparents, wouldn't it be great to buy a life insurance policy for your new grandchildren to make sure they're okay? Now, on the surface and on an emotional level, that sounds like a great idea. Let's insure the little baby so that in case something happens, they're okay. Well, that's not how insurance works. I mean, who would want a settlement or a payout if a little child dies? That would be awful. But, so don't make this mistake. If you've heard of it before, do not put insurance on little kids or babies. It's a big mistake. Here's a really big money mistake that I think can be very costly, and that is not prioritizing paying off your mortgage or your house payment. By the time that house is paid off over, let's say, 30 years, you're not just paying for the price of that house one time, you're paying for the price of that house 2 to 3 times. It becomes very, very expensive. And a big mistake is not putting that as your number one priority to pay off, to make double payments, and to eventually get rid of that household mortgage payment, that monthly payment that is very expensive. I think people in general think this is a normal thing. It's very normal to have a loan on your house. It's very normal to borrow hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for your home over decades. Everybody's doing it. So it seems to become this very normal thing in our everyday lives, and it's not unusual. So people just accept it. Instead, what they should be doing is taking that ginormous loan that they have and prioritizing it. And every time they get extra money, to pay double on it, chip it away, get it done with, so that eventually you are debt-free of that house, that home, and you could then roll it into something even bigger and better down the line. Hey, I'm glad that you made it this far, and I'd really like it if you subscribe to the channel. So I'm going to give you a bonus money mistake to avoid. This centers around budgeting. A lot of people do budget and a lot of people do not, but this is more an advanced technique. What happens is when you're budgeting, that is keeping track of all of your expenses every day and every month, what a lot of people don't do is they don't project or anticipate future expenses that are inevitably coming down the line. Now, a really good example of this is, let's say it's September or October, and you know Christmas is going to be here, but Thanksgiving hasn't even rolled around yet, but you know you're probably going to be spending a lot of money when it comes to Christmas time on gifts or travel or what have you. So the technique here is to anticipate that those big expenses are coming. And when you anticipate those and plan for them every single quarter, no matter what type of expenses are coming, then you're going to be ahead of the game. You're going to make sure you take care of the more immediate expenses. You're going to be more prepared. And in other ways, you're going to spend a lot less when those future expenses come because you're anticipating them and you're going to beat them to the punch. So the mistake here is to not anticipate future expenses that are definitely coming down the line, especially fixed and big expenses. I really enjoy going over big mistakes to avoid when it comes to money. And I hope you did too. In fact, I think I'm going to do this again with some more big mistakes because there are a lot of other vital ones that can keep you from cutting away and eating away at your hard-earned money. So if you like this kind of stuff, make sure you like the video or subscribe to the channel. Other than that, I'll see you around next time. We got a lot more coming and you do not want to miss out.